In this video, I'll be going over playday number 6, SSG versus TSM. Last year, I covered TSM. This year, I'm obviously covering SSG. So I'm really excited to see the strategies that both teams will bring out, considering we covered both teams on Coastline, and that's where this match will be held. TSM ban Capitao, just a universally great operator since there's no MI to stop those firebolts from dislodging an anchor or a roamer in a fixed position. And then SSG will ban Habana, probably the best hard breacher on Coastline, considering you don't really have a whole lot of walls where you'll be able to walk up to them and Mav or Thermite. Next Valkyrie, get the intel out of here, make running out a lot more risky on coast, which is always a good thing. And then Maestro from TSM. I'm starting to think that the Maestro ban might be a target ban against Fultz. Fultz on Maestro is an absolute beast. As I mentioned in the previous Coastline VOD that I did versus Tempo Storm, SSG love Dokkaebi and Thatcher. They bring these two operators almost every single attacking round. I think at some point they realized that Dokkaebi is not really working for them. But Doke can call all of these operators without any counter. I'm excluding Echo because, of course, you can't call him. Not in this patch, at least. IQ is a nice target against Vigil and Echo. And then Thatcher is a great way to deal with Mozzie and Jaeger. Leaning on Mira when Habana is banned is always a good idea since there's few counters there. I would almost say that SSG on attack could sneak in a Twitch in order to help deal with those black windows. Reinforcements on the office wall, 3 reinforcements on Sunrise entrance, and then while we're here, let's draw the barbed wire that will be outside of the entrance door. A black window and reinforcement on office. We've seen this before from SSG. And then TSM will reinforce the connector wall inside of kitchen in order to contest Fultz, who in the previous VOD we saw continuously entry through service entrance solo. Not uncommon for an Ashe to do that anyway. Leg level soft destruction through courtyard. I think there's also some vertical soft destruction, not vertical, but angles from courtyard into kitchen, again to enable a way to contest the Ashe pushing in through kitchen. On the top floor, reinforcement on Hookah. I believe there's a rotate too. Just good to hold down Hookah since vertically it's right above the site. So a black window and reinforcement on the connector wall of Hookah. Smart to hold above reinforcement in hallway, and then barbed wire also inside of hallway, as well as Hookah door in order to give this position a little more defensive stance. Rotate also on the connector wall into billiards. That's all dandy. Well, SSG will try to initially push in through Hookah. They will ultimately decide that it's stronger to push through Hall of Fame and take care of this Mira through the side rather than run right through it. And one of the common themes that I wrote down while I was watching the VOD is SSG rotates on attack, make sure that they have a more advantageous position to push through. So the position of Jaeger is spotted inside of Hookah. The attackers have complete control of the top floor except for Hookah, wrestling Jaeger out of his position. That is, of course, reinforced by a black window. Very important in order to start pressuring vertically. And as I mentioned, what Ashe will do is she will Ashe charge the side of the Jaeger's position in order to apply pressure. They also put Canadian on the Hookah repel, but Jaeger is able to get the kill there. The Ashe charge comes later than the player going on the Hookah repel, so just kind of poor coordination there. Since all Jaeger really had to worry about was the barricade being opened on Hookah. So now that the attackers have vertical control, complete vertical control, they need to establish horizontal pressure to pair with the vertical pressure so that the defenders are forced to either look up or down. The attackers obviously know that there's a Mozzie, Harry Potter of cool vibes, and so they're going to attempt a pinch here. Ash flashes down cool vibes, and then I want to break down the other movement from these attackers. So Buck dropped down into hookah through the hookah hatch. Ash flashed the cool vibe stairs, but then actually drops into courtyard. Meanwhile, Mozzie is in Harry Potter. There is a Jaeger in blue and a Vigil in lobby. And so while the attackers thought they were taking a 2v1, what really happens here is the defenders turn this into a 3v2. This is a common theme with TSM on defense. You will think you are taking a really advantageous fight, but in reality, there are crossfires you didn't realize that they had established, and so you drop into a losing position. There's also something to be said about the boldness of Buck to drop into the site. Remember, this is a sunrise and blue defense. So while the attackers get the single kill on Mozzie, it's not really worth it considering you trade 1 for 2 and you're a man down. So letting this play out, the kill onto Mozzie, but then the refrag onto Buck and also Ash. Bosco, through that whole sequence, was attempting a plant, apparently. But probably should have been helping with the pinch onto the player Harry Potter. Maybe just even being on like blue window would have been enough to get the refrag that TSM got onto Buck. Same lineup from SSG, same 6 even. And then the same thing also from TSM. I think one of the bigger aspects of the lineup that TSM are bringing is this Vigil and Mozzie combo. I guess I'm not comfortable with Mute, but I think Mute's also really strong considering Dokubi's in play. But SSG, when playing against Reciprocity, who brought a lot of Mute Mozzie, definitely struggled droning out where players' positions were, and that just wastes tons of time. Even that mirror window on the previous round wasted tons of time because of all the rotations that the attackers had to make. So kitchen defense will have a reinforcement on connector, no doubt that there's going to be a rotate right next to it. And then 2 reinforcements on the lobby triple wall. There's going to be a black window that looks into lobby. I personally think that this is a really poor choice for TSM. The reason being, I don't recall a single time that SSG ever attacked through the lobby. And so that's just site pressure and kind of a meaningless mirror window. If this gets popped vertically, then you have just another sight line, another area. Like this triple wall spot is really powerful for defenders to be sitting in. If that gets popped, then you can't actually play in that position anymore. And so where are you supposed to play? Like kitchen will be opened up most likely. My answer is you don't really have a great place to anchor. They will also open up the lobby hatch. On the second floor, reinforcements in the hallway all across, as well as theater with a mirror window inside of theater. There's going to be a really relevant pest, which I'm drawing as P, and also wire on top of luggage. And then I want to note the player positions, I believe it's Mozzie in 90, who will eventually rotate into VIP, and then a Vigil on white stairs. There's a drone hole right above. These 2 players will single-handedly hold down the luggage door for roughly a minute. It wastes tons of time. And then I think there's also a Jaeger who's in theater who is going to hold Pent. So again, like this is such a complex crossfire, but Jaeger can assist with luggage. We have a player 90. This player inside VIP will actually rotate into Pent in order to alleviate pressure coming from Pent. And Vigil first of all makes it very difficult to drone to understand what the actual defensive setup looks like, but also just holding this lobby, sorry, not the lobby, but the door from luggage. So we're looking at the defender positions here. Merc is, as I mentioned, a 90. Vigil is bottom of white stairs. That pest capture the drone. It's even more difficult to drone because you're facing a Vigil. I wonder where the deployable camera is being used. I would guess 90 because default cam's not super reliable. But SSG will put Ash on the rappel in penthouse. She will swing in order to try to push the player in theater. The problem is there's a player in theater. And also a player in 90 who can rotate and help out. So 1-for-1 on the Jaeger, and then Mozzie moves from 90 into VIP in order to refrag. No, well, not even refrag, in order to trade favorably, 2-for-1. Thinking it on Thatcher, probably should have been holding VIP window in order to stop that rotation, or should have been holding more aggressively down 90 instead of most likely entering through hookah. So just, again, poor coordination, not really covering all your flanks. Not a whole lot to say in terms of operators. I mean, Sledge is 6-on-2 because they showed the castle. And then IQ countering Vigil, Pulse, and Echo. I actually think that Dokkaebi was a really good operator to bring and continue bringing, considering you're really struggling understanding the player positions of these defenders. A default hookah reinforcement strategy, connector across hookah, quad, and then 2 on VIP. Nothing really. During the Tempo Storm VOD, we saw SSG have a really strong hookah take that involved bucking underneath Sunrise. So TSM positioned a defender in that hallway in order to contest buck. I would actually say that contesting through blue bar might be a little more advantageous, or kitchen door, rather than just kind of being in the middle of the courtyard there. This time around, though, there will be no push into kitchen from Fultz. He's actually holding blue, it looks like. So SSG do plan for some kind of support underneath with Buck. But in the meantime, SSG were able, from the balcony, it seemed, just able to get picks onto the anchors in sight. During round 4, the reinforcements will be similar to round 1, so I won't cover them again. So once again, the attack is pushing through Hall of Fame into Penthouse and Theater. SSG are going to breach down the hallway to pressure the players inside of Hookah, who also have a mirror window. Opening up that line of sight obviously forces the players to drop down Hookah hatch. And so SSG, again, vertical control, but this time they haven't lost Bosco on IQ, which is pretty big. So vertical control with no man lost, and I think they're even 30 seconds ahead of time. Nice adaptation from SSG. Meanwhile, we're going to have Canadian, who's going to open up a line of sight in service entrance and cut off the rotation that the defenders have through blue into Sunrise. I said service entrance, but I meant Sunrise entrance. Which is great because SSG are now pressuring vertically, and so the anchors will be forced to either challenge up or horizontally, which in most cases is always a losing battle. So Thinking Aid was kind of just crouch walking through lobby, and he died. Plant's going off, but something I want to really stress is in this frame, look at the defender positions. I mean, during Plant, maybe not the strongest to be grouped up like that, but they will trade out. There's really like no scenario at a pro level where these guys don't go 1-for-1 with the attackers. And I appreciate how, at least to me, it seems like it's part of the game plan to stick together as much as possible on defense. SSG will 6 off the Thatcher onto Nomad. It'll be interesting to see how quickly they can attain information based on the Mozzie from TSM. I also just don't know if there were any flanks really from TSM. There was no retake vertically until diffuser had been set. So I'm not a huge fan of the 6-on-2 Nomad. Round 5 is like round 2. We have Ashe who's pushing into Sunrise. I'm just going to be holding rotations. So Mozzie and Jaeger are above inside of Pent right now. We saw Jaeger really wanting to jump out of Pent window, but he probably knows that there's a Claymore underneath. And in the last 20 seconds, SSG are going to make magic happen. 5v5. What's going to happen, I feel like I should be playing Elephant by Tame Impala as these two run into service entrance. So first we had Jaeger and Mozzie inside of Penthouse, but as soon as IQ goes on the repel, they start to rotate out. It actually forces the Mozzie, Jaeger remains in theater, but it forces the Mozzie to drop down courtyard in order to be relevant. What Mozzie might not know though is that Fultz has been sitting in Sunrise this whole time and will catch the rotation down. There is the Vigil on top of blue that Fultz will have to encounter next, but he's just going to win that gunfight. And then in the bottom here with Bosco and Canadian, they're going to push directly into site. Bosco's going to get the frag onto Pojo. Or really, it should be drawn this way. And then Bosco will die to Geo. Fultz, after he kills the Mozzie and the Vigil, will just push deeper into service entrance. So a pinch working really well, but mostly because Fultz is able to get the kill on Vigil. That should have not happened. Such a difficult angle to be peeking and to win. These two sticking together make the push through service entrance not in vain. So we'll just let this play out. I thought this was such not even a good attack as much as just complete raw skill in order to land that shot onto the Vigil. And then coordinated enough to know to push into service entrance together. Pojo is not holding an angle as he's crouched by that service entrance window. SSG will 6 off the Zofia onto Jackal. Great counters to Vigil, Pulse, and also Mozzie, who are clearly being a nuisance, but at the same time, like they're up 3-2, so it's not a huge deal. Jaeger is also included in that. Reinforcements are like round 1, except this time Fultz will entry solo into Kitchen. What she doesn't know is that there are 2 defenders inside a Kitchen. So while she will flash, well now she knows because of that tracer, but so she'll flash, get the kill onto the Pulse, and then immediately get traded out by the Vigil. Putting a Vigil in Kitchen is so difficult since she is droning herself into Kitchen. So really nice adaptation, or not even an adaptation, but just the awareness from TSM to know that Fultz typically pushes through Kitchen. And then Rampy on the Buck just lost one of a very winnable angle that he should have absolutely won, trying to pressure vertically into Kitchen. Thinking Nade gets the kill onto the player rotating out of bathroom that was in Kitchen, just not aware of a player sitting outside in lobby. But when the site is blue and Sunrise, you should feel comfortable rotating from Kitchen into site, since that is site. At the same time though, there's also the Kitchen window cutoff that Thinking Nade in the past has been on. So Thinking Nade is going to reestablish a position inside of Kitchen. The reason being, and this is so important for TSM too, is when you have a player inside a Kitchen, you cut off the rotation into Sunrise, and then it's very easy to go for a default plant inside of Sunrise. Actually, I think SSG will move over to the half wall. So from Kitchen, Thatcher is going to get a kill onto Mozzie rotating between site, I believe. And then as a response, Smoke needs to get aggressive. Does not need to peek out of Kitchen door. Should have just held the rotation deep inside the Kitchen. Leaving this to a 1v1 since plant support dies, but Canadian able to clutch the round. SSG bringing operators we're very familiar with, Jaeger on Rampy, or Rampy on Jaeger. Vault 6ing the Warden's kind of funny. I don't understand what operator would cause them to think that they need to do that. Maybe they've scrimmed TSM and they've encountered a Ying. That's what I would guess. We have Mira, Mute, good combo, no hard breach. So if there's no twitch, if there's no vertical play, the Mira windows will most likely stay up. And I don't even think there's gonna be any smokes because Doke brings nades. And then Mozzie will just slow down droning. Mute also a counter to Lion, but as I've mentioned in the past, one of the weaker counters to Lion, since in order to use the counter of the jammer, you need to be standing still no matter what. Also worth mentioning that Mute counters Dokkaebi in a really effective way. Kind of funny that TSM are bringing the 2 global ops. 3 reinforcements on Sunrise entrance with a black window looking out into pool entrance. As I mentioned before, just a really annoying black window. It's not like you're gonna play behind it, it's just annoying. And then 2 reinforcements looking into blue bar with a black window as well. We will reinforce off office. There'll be the typical soft destruction into courtyard because we can't play inside of blue since there's this window here. So let's make blue somewhat of a kill box with this mirror window and also courtyard soft destruction that gives you angles from lobby and courtyard to deny plant. Because we're relying on that mirror window inside of Sunrise, we need to reinforce the hallway as well as the hatch above inside of hookah. A soft destruction that would allow a defender to, from luggage, contest the kitchen window jump in. As well as on the second floor, there will be lots of horizontal soft destruction across the hallway. This is to give the defenders a way to apply pressure from 90 and peak any vertical pressure that the attackers are creating above site. So Merc on Ash will entry in through service entrance, being contested vertically from the hatch. It's a juicy angle, I haven't seen that one before. Only through that hatch. There's no presence inside a kitchen. In fact, they barricaded it off. It's a bit of a freebie for Ash in terms of control and setting up for what TSM want to do, which is pinching from kitchen and blue/office. Merc gets away with just a nasty shot. Canadian created vertical soft destruction and then peaked it immediately. Not extremely smart. So TSM droning and getting ready for the push. Kind of a lack of coordination here because the ADS is still up inside of blue and that nade very clearly was meant to push the Mira out. And then Merc gets merked by the SAS operator pushing too deep through kitchen door. Once again, we just saw Dokkaebi's nade getting caught by an ADS inside of blue. Achieve takes the position back inside a kitchen by vaulting through the kitchen door, and meanwhile, TSM have full pushed in through blue. So let's go back and rewatch this. I want to stress that TSM are just better gunners. Like what they're doing here is really stupid. They are pushing one doorway that is being watched by through a black window, and they're just able to pick off 2 players inside of sight by widening around the blue bar area. And actually, I want to highlight the pathway that Bolo will consistently take. He will push through this office door and then wide around. As he's doing that, he's contesting the angle into sight through the small soft destruction that Mira has set up in order to support her black window. So let's redraw this black window, which would be here, and then also this rotation or soft destruction that she has. So Bolo's going to do the same path, the same contest multiple times, get a defender on top of Cool Vibe stairs, and this doesn't happen. Losing the player inside a kitchen, obviously a pretty big hit too, since now you have a pinch. While Bolo's doing that, you also have this pinch in from kitchen from the buck in order to pressure a site. The other thing too is that it's not just Bolo that's pushing in through blue bar, but also Pojo and Doke. I believe will vault in through maybe blue window. So they just like hard ran through what was actually a really good setup from SSG because they just outgunned. Another way to stop this push that TSM just did, where they just completely outfragged, is have a player sitting in lobby contesting the soft destruction, the courtyard wall angles that you've opened up, so that Bolo can't just run in like that. Cool vibes and also courtyard would have been the way to stop these fraggers from doing what they did. So Lion was apparently problematic enough that they want to 6 to the Vigil, but they're no longer going to be bringing the Lion. Still keeping the Doke, so Mute's probably a bit stronger. And then Legion, I think, is, well, so in some cases it's true that Legion's being brought because there's no barbed wire on the team. Like Smoke normally bringing deployable camera, or sorry, deployable shield. Doc sometimes a deployable camera. Barb maybe, right? So on this kitchen defense, SSG will try something very new, very original. First, they'll reinforce I believe all 4 walls in blue. Actually, I'm not super sure about this wall, but we're gonna keep it that way. And then on site, there's just tons of rotates, not lines of sight, but full rotates into kitchen, into service entrance, and also toilets. I understand what SSG are trying to do. They're trying to set up for a retake strategy. The only problem is that they had players sitting on site and just tons of lines of sight that the anchor needs to worry about. On the second floor, reinforcement on the Cool Vibes stairs. Hookah will be reinforced, the hatch, and so will the penthouse hatch down into lobby. There was some idea of a top floor roam, but as I already kind of alluded to, doesn't matter a whole lot when your anchor doesn't feel safe on site. Merc gets a vertical pick onto the Smoke. Smoke is playing in what I think is probably the safest corner to play in. Or no, it's just he dies from the rotate. So Smoke just rotating between site and dies from the vertical pressure from above established by TSM. He can't really... He has to be conscientious of his horizontal pressure as well because of all the open lines of sight that SSG have created for him. Once again, we see that TSM just doing work vertically onto players inside of sight. I mean, to my eyes, this is definitely a retake strategy defensively, but you have players who are inside of sight trying to hold it down. Maybe not the time to try something so creative. Kitchen service will go to something more default. The only difference to this defensive setup is I noted 2 reinforcements on blue into Sunrise towards the east. I'm not going to draw it though. What's also important to note is because the attackers have been pushing so early, better to bring Ella, who can stop rushes probably the most effectively. Some people think that it's Legion, but I personally think that's Ella because of Grizz mods, which I've talked about. And the other thing is that Echo, as a plant denial operator, not a whole lot of use if they're not even really attempting a plant. You're just dying so quickly at like a minute 30. So I like that 6 from SSG. IQ and Ash are going to take into Sunrise entrance extremely quickly. All the way through Sunrise, there needs to be a defender sitting on top of Cool Vibe stairs in order to negate this push. Even the default camera would be nice. In the VOD that I did for TSM when they versed EG last year, we saw Merc crouch walk into kitchen several times. But so the vault in through kitchen window, 2 push kitchen door, they kind of know that Bosco's alone on site. Luckily for SSG, they have the Doc who is sitting inside the bathroom, and there's also Ella who's towards blue. So with a minute 50, the attacker has the advantage of time. Basically, start trying to fake a plant, lure those the defenders in, and then flick onto their heads. Take the 1v1 if you can get it, which he does. So now, a minute 30, very winnable, 1v3. You have intel to drone out and figure out the exact location of this last defender. But as I mentioned, you can also just start fake planting and force the defender to be the initiator. So with diffuser planted, now extremely difficult for the defender to win this. I think they choose not to bring back the Ela because Rampy felt limited by the Scorpion and the range that he had to take that gunfight at. So we just kind of go back to a default setup. I don't think that there's a whole lot of droning from TSM. Like this combination here, don't really think it's that helpful. I would in fact prefer to have Legion just again to slow down these pushes that are happening so quickly. So quick take from IQ into Office, and then we'll also have Ash push in through Service Entrance, this time knowing to hold the hatch. TSM are going to try to split, again, Office, Blue, and Kitchen. I just think it's odd that all you really need to do in order to defend Kitchen or hold it in some kind of way is reinforce one wall, which is that connector wall. And Space Station decide to forego that. They do have some vertical soft destruction above in VIP, but I mean, Merc got a kill onto an anchor, so no one, it seems, was holding that vertical soft destruction. It was just there as maybe a warning cry. So Merc once again, from this kitchen door, getting more kills onto the anchors, falls to the player playing Harry Potter, and then, well, the whole rest of the defense falls. There was no push vertically from the attack really until the end there, so vertical pressure or vertical lines of sight down onto Office from Aqua and also in VIP would have been able to contest the doorways that the attackers were pushing through. This last setup from SSG kind of felt a bit desperate. I mean, anytime you see a Rook being brought out, either the player is playing so poorly that they need to give some utility to the team immediately, or they're just throwing the strat book out the window and saying, let's give our best player, who I still think is false, but on defense, in all fairness, is probably Rampy. Let's give our best player a gun with an ACOG and just contest everything. So we will cover the strategy, Legion being stuck, but again, I'm not super sure if that's because just the lack of barb. And lack of barb might be the reason why TSM have been able just to fly in through sight. So on a kitchen defense, there will be reinforcements on Sunrise and Blue, I believe in that split pattern. And then 3 reinforcements on Triple as well as Connector. That is all pretty standard. You also have your standard courtyard and hallway soft destruction. Cool. The uniqueness to the strategy is going to be the rotation that SSG creates inside of Billiards quad wall, VIP, penthouse. And the motive behind this is so they'll reinforce the Aqua wall, create a rotation there as well, with an armor panel on Billiards window, hookah window, and also Aqua door. What they're trying to do is give Rampy, who is our ACOG operator, a line of sight all the way into penthouse from Billiards, which is just insane. There's also, I forgot to mention, going to be horizontal line of sight through hookah that, again, just allows them to contest the entry through penthouse. They, for whatever reason, think that TSM are entering in through Hall of Fame, and that's the problem. The problem is that you have players on the first floor who are just swinging into sight and absolutely murdering your anchors. TSM actually do entry in through Hall of Fame into VIP. The problem is that they negate the lines of sight that SSG have created by just walking through Hall of Fame instead of rappelling into penthouse. So kind of a simple solution there. And then that was just an ill-advised peek from the Mozzie, going to die from the breaching round. Always worth netting a kill using that utility. So Merc in a really aggressive position, trying to push down 90 into the hallway. Not sure why she would do that. If they pinch through Aqua, then the attack can get the rook out of his position pretty easily, but they need drone through luggage in order to determine that. They can also just establish the hookah repel and start holding him inside of Aqua. But instead what will happen is he will peek out, lose an insane gunfight to Merc. With rook dead, all they have to worry about are the anchors on site and this player inside of blue. Merc's just better. And these anchors are so screwed. TSM won because they just have literally better players. Sorry, SSG. Like, in my opinion, strategically, there's not a lot that separates the two of them. In fact, if you look at the attacks, I think that SSG just have better coordinated attacks, more interesting attacks. But maybe where SSG are lacking is they need to adapt to really aggressive teams, to teams that are willing to and know that they will win every single 1v1. Not even 1v1. Like, TSM are basically players. TSM have players who think that they can take on 1v2s and come out on top. Bringing out Legion Ella, I think, was the necessary adjustment from SSG. Even just more barbed wire would have probably helped. Because movement, as we saw Bolo just kind of swing in through blue bar, and then also as we saw them jump into kitchen, was huge for the attack. I don't have a whole lot else to say other than TSM are a very scary team. It is 4 absolute gunners that, if paired with a little more strategy, a little more coordination, will be dominant. I normally don't talk about team performances and how I feel they stand in terms of power rankings, blah, blah, blah. But I don't actually think TSM matched up against a team like Empire would do all that well. At the same time, I think they're very close to being a team who could completely decimate all of Pro League. And I look forward to seeing more from TSM and hopefully better showings from SSG, who have now drawed and lost the past 2 play days. With that, take care.